Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here to give you my review of the Fujinon XF 16mm F2.8, and this is RWR, and we'll talk more in a few minutes about what those things mean during our hands-on section. But in many ways, this very compact optic, along with some others similar to it, in my opinion, really are the most compelling reason to consider Fuji, giving you nicely made, weather-sealed in many cases, including in this one, lenses that have good optical performance, good autofocus performance, but allow you to get nice images in a really compact package if you pair it with an appropriate Fuji body. And so for those of you that envisioned mirrorless as being small and light, it is lenses like this that really help you to achieve that vision in a way that is not really matched on the DSLR front. And so today we're going to give you a look at the build, the design, the features. We'll break down the autofocus performance. We'll take a look at the image quality and give you a final verdict on the lens. First of all, we're going to jump in and give you a closer look hands-on at the build and the design of this tiny little lens. Let's jump in, let's take a look. So the first thing that if you remove the cap and the hood and all the accessories that really stands out to you is just how tiny this lens is. And that really is, of course, a lot of its strength, is its ability to pack what is arguably an incredibly important focal length, 24mm full frame equivalent, into such a compact little package here. And so as we can see here, this is RWR. And so R stands for the fact that it has an aperture ring. And so you can select automatic if you want to control from within camera, or you can select an aperture right here from the ring, and you have 1/3 stop to tenths in between, and so you can go 3.2, 3.5 before you hit 4. And then secondly, we have WR, which refers to the fact not only that you have a nice thick gasket here at the lens mount, but you do have some internal seals as well that will help you to protect the lens, and so that you can take it out in the elements and get good results out there. Outside of that, pretty straightforward here. We've got a focus ring here. This is focused by wire, and what that means is that there's no hard stops. You can rotate it forever if it's not connected to the camera, but input on the focus ring will be routed through the camera body itself and the focus motor of the lens when it's attached, and so it will make its adjustments there. Beyond that, up front, we have got a 49mm front filter thread, nice and compact, but it means that filters for this are really cheap. Now, in terms of the raw dimensions here, the lens is 5.5 ounces or 155 grams. In other words, you'll be able to throw this in your bag and never even notice that it's there, even if you're going out for like a critical hiking trip, or a long-term trip where you have to count every ounce. This is your guy for that kind of excursion. In terms of its overall dimensions, it is 2.36 inches or 60 millimeters in diameter, and it is less than 2 inches long, 1.79 inches or just 45.4 millimeters, and so we're talking incredibly small. It has 9 rounded aperture blades inside, and that helps to contribute to a pretty decent looking bokeh performance out of the lens. Not that this particular kind of focal length will give you a lot of opportunity to create highly focused backgrounds. Your minimum focus distance is, not all that close. It's 17 centimeters, and so you only get a 0.13 times magnification. Overall price tag here at $399 US is not cheap, but neither is it exceptionally expensive. And you can see from the user reviews that a lot of people have purchased and a lot of people enjoy this lens. It does have a small petal-shaped lens hood that will give a little bit of shading value, but also provide some protection value when you're out from, knocks again while hiking or out and about. And so overall, we've got a nice little setup on this very compact little optic. So as you can see, really not anything to criticize there. Mostly metals in the body, and even though it's really lightweight, in your hand, it feels like a premium lens. It feels like it's well made, feels like a lens that's going to last for a long time. And that, of course, brings you a lot of peace of mind there with it. Now, as far as the autofocus performance here, let's start by taking a look at the focus pull section for video, and that'll give you a little bit of a feel of the behavior of the focus motor. Let's take a look. So as far as the good goes, while there is some focus sound there, it's not loud. It's not like some of Fuji's lenses that tend to be kind of loud and buzzy in operation. It's not silent in operation. I've heard quieter focus motors from Fuji before than what's here, but overall I think that's pretty good. I'm never quite thrilled with the smoothness of focus pulls. With Fuji, there's a little more drama there than what I see in other platforms, but we're really evaluating more this lens, and I think that performance is fairly good. And so out in the real world, realize that with a 24mm focal length and only a moderately wide maximum aperture of f2.8, you're not really asking a ton of a focus system. And so byproduct of that is that, it got the job done. I found that, images were nicely in focus, but again, in most cases, a lot of stuff is in focus. That's kind of the nature of the focal length and the aperture combination. And I tended to use this lens more at smaller apertures anyway, f5.6 or so. And for the way that I use the lens, I had good results. And so nothing really to complain about on the autofocus front. So let's break down the image quality and take a look at what you are getting here in terms of optical performance. Let's dive in and take a look. So first of all, let's take a look at our vignette and our distortion. Now, as far as distortion goes, I don't see a lot of distortion here, which is quite positive for a 24mm lens. I did find a little bit of inconsistency across the frame in terms of how that looked, but for the most part, I think that distortion should be fairly much a non-factor for most people. As far as the vignette goes, we do have a minimal amount of vignette. Again, not bad, actually, surprisingly, for a lens like this. And I was able to correct it by inputting a +39 and then sliding the midpoint all the way over, and you can see it pretty even in result there. So let's take a look at our resolution. Now, I've tested this particular lens on X-T200, which has their 24 megapixel, not the little higher resolution 26 megapixel sensor, but gives us a good sense here. Center of the frame, that's nothing wow there. Contrast, you can see, is a little bit off. Resolution's not bad. We can see at f4 contrast starts to pick up mid-frame, and details looking a little bit more precise here. At our mid-frame area, we can see that, again, contrast is not amazing wide open. It's a little bit improved by f4. And down into the bottom, we can see that, once again, it's not bad, but what I don't see is a lot of acuity, of the fine details here. And it's frankly not a ton better at f4. Stopping down to f5.6 gives us a little bit more improvement down in the corner. And if we stop on down to f8, we can see a little bit more. But at no point is this, in terms of my chart testing, does this lens really wow me. Even here at f8, mid-frame looks pretty good, but not exceptional. And center of the frame now looks pretty good. Fortunately, I think real-world results look a little bit better than what chart tests will show here. Now, one positive that I can point to here is that our longitudinal chromatic aberrations are fairly well controlled, which gives us a decent contrast here. So we can see, everything looks fairly inky there. Maybe just a little bit of green fringing beyond the plane of focus, a tiny bit of magenta beforehand. So we can see at minimum focus distance that, overall magnification is nothing to write home about, 0.13 times. But we can see that towards the middle of the frame, global contrast looks pretty decent. Zooming into a pixel level, you can see that there is kind of some haze over the textures. And so it's a okay performance, not exceptional. Now, fortunately, if we go out into the real world, I think that the results look a little bit more compelling. Here's at f5.6. And so you can see that, if I go into a, 200% magnification like what I do for my chart test, textures aren't necessarily holding up. However, at a more typical 100% magnification, everything here looks fairly good. Not like, jumping off the page sharp, but, certainly a credible end result. And once again here, colors look nice and rich, and you can see that details are looking fairly strong here. And so I think that most people would be satisfied with that for walk around landscape use. Here we can see shooting into the sun a bit, but everything is holding up quite well here. Once again here, I think colors look nice and rich. That's one area I think is a strength for the lens. And, you know, like I said, I mean, I've seen stronger, you know, wide-angle performances than this, but I think that it provides a credible job in a, you know, a compact package. This image I thought was nice and rich, you know, early morning on a golf course. And again, you know, details across the frame look good, but I think that more than anything, this lens is for people who just want to have this focal length in a convenient package. Now, if we take a look at the bokeh, the you know, a little bit less than stellar contrast of the lens at wide apertures, I think actually helps it when it comes to the bokeh quality, which frankly, I think it looks fairly soft here. Now, where it's not so great is when we look at our minimum focus subject here, which also looks, you know, kind of soft due to not having great contrast. At the same time, however, I did find this lens to be quite useful as a walk-around kind of lens. It's a nice focal length, very compact, and frankly, I thought that the images that I was able to capture like this, they look good. I mean, not like, you know, pixel peeping, shockingly good, but good enough that I think it certainly warrants the lens itself and the usefulness of it. And you can see here, like with the horizon, that the low distortion of the lens allows it to give you a really nice looking, credible end result. So finally, let's take a look at how this lens performs for astro work. So first of all, I have a lot of positives here to point to. I think that, again, like resolution doesn't blow my mind, but star points are nice and crisp here in the center of the frame. And as I move off towards the edge, I do see a little bit of, you know, the coma. You can see a little bit of like the wings, the winged ducks flying away, but it's not strongly pronounced. And as I look at the image globally, I'm quite happy with it. In this second image, I actually used my barrel sauna as a foreground subject to actually, go for a little bit something more interesting here. And again, I thought that the end result was quite interesting with the Milky Way coming up behind, nice crisp star points and, not too bad instances of coma, making this a nice nighttime lens as well. So bottom line for me is that outside of a few exceptions, I am rarely wowed by the absolute optical performance of a lot of Fuji lenses. I review a lot of lenses for various platforms, and I definitely see other lenses that impress me more in terms of the sheer optical chops from the lenses. And that's true here as well. I think that I'm more looking at the images globally, and the takeaway is that I think that real-world images are basically what I would expect them to be. They're reasonably well detailed. The color is really nice. I like the low distortion from the lens. Vignette's not a real factor. There's not really a lot of optical flaws there to point to, but at the same time, yeah, I've certainly seen sharper, 24-ish millimeter lenses before. But I mean, at the same time, to be fair, this is a $399 lens, and I think that relative to the price and relative to what you're getting as a complete package, I suspect that most people are going to be satisfied with the optical performance from this lens because it's going to give you nicely detailed images, fairly decent real-world contrast at smaller apertures. And like I said, overall, I did like the images I got with the lens. And so I'm just going to have to be content with that, even if I'm not wowed at a pixel peeping level. So at the end of the day, like I said in the intro, I think that it's this kind of lens that makes just a lot of sense on the Fuji platform, and it's what makes the Fuji platform make the most sense. I've been less impressed with the pro grade zooms, which tend to be not a lot smaller than what equivalent full frame lenses for other mirrorless systems are, and so I don't think you gain a whole lot there, and in fact, I actually think you lose some. But with lenses like these, they still offer kind of a competence that, you don't often see on other platforms. And I think it's here that this system probably makes the most sense. So the XF 16mm F2.8, if I were putting together a small, lightweight kind of hiking or travel kit, this is definitely a lens that I would consider throwing into the mix. I'm Dustin Abbott. If you look in the description down below, you can find linkage to my image gallery and check out some photos there for yourself. There's also buying links if you want to purchase one. And beyond that, there's linkage to follow me on social media, to become a patron, to sign up for my newsletter. And if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.